وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد.
It's okay. I mean, not necessarily, but just for video.
I don't have the laptop, or he's not here right now. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Jazakallah khair. Thank you everyone for coming this evening, and thank you for waiting. We will go ahead and get started, inshallah. As advertised, our program this evening is titled Contextualizing the Palestinian Cause. What is the Palestinian narrative? Is it an Arab cause, a Muslim cause, or a humanity cause? And what can we as a community do to promote or to frame the Palestinian cause in its proper context? With us this evening, we have Brother Oussama Jamal, who is the Secretary General for the U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations. Thank you for being with us this evening, and welcome to Masjid al-Huda this evening. So, go ahead, please. So we'll go ahead and get started. I think the question that's on everyone's mind is, it seems as if this current flare-up that has occurred within the past 3 weeks, for a lot of non-Muslims, of course, but even for some Muslims, it appears that history started for them on October 7th. And everything before that has been forgotten. So can you help us understand what this issue is about? What's happening here?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My sincere apology for being late. I took the wrong exit. There's a construction I'm coming all the way from south. And the construction, actually, they separated. So I took there were cars here. I couldn't move to the other lane. So anyway, we missed 290 and I had to go all the way to 90. The situation in Palestine, without historical context, you would not know really, everything else, it's just consequences. Because everybody claiming ownership. How much time we have, first of all?
We have until we will end at 7:50, inshallah, because Isha is at 8 o'clock.
Oh, okay, 7:50.
7:50.
Okay.
7:50. We can push it to 7:55.
Sure.
7:50, let's aim.
So basically, the Palestine, it's a holy land. Many of the prophets came and born, and their stories is within the Palestine area. And that's the choice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was not Palestinian. He got his green card when he came from Aram in Iraq. He migrated. We all know the story when he was challenging his father and his followers, and the idols, and he challenged them that these idols are not worthy of worship. Even his father was very upset with him and wanted to put him on fire. And the fire, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it kuni bardan wa salaman ala Ibrahim. So he left. And Allah wanted him to come to Palestine. And in Palestine, he established himself. And then he had his children. Not from the first time, because he could not have children. And his wife actually was given, Sarah, may Allah be pleased with them all. She did not bear children, as you know. And when he was in Egypt, remember the relationship between Palestine and Egypt is very old. Very old. So when Abraham was with his wife Sarah in Egypt, and the Pharaoh, wanted his wife, and he could not, of course, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in a way that gave him Hajar as a gift or something. So he took Hajar. Still, they did not have children. And when Hajar was pregnant, Sarah, alayhi salam, she became jealous. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to move his wife to Mecca, or that land, which was not even existing. After that, Sayyidina Ishaq or Yaqub came. And with that, there was the children of Israel. But it was not an empty land. There were people there. There were people there. And if you recall, when there was Egypt, of course, they had some civilization and everything. And then when the brothers of Yusuf, the son of Yaqub, they wanted to kill him. And then the story goes on where Sayyidina Yusuf now is in Egypt. Oh, you want it closer? So now Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam is in Egypt. And you can tell that they used to go back and forth to Yaqub, his father, with the trade, so they want to get food. So you see the relationship here between Egypt and Palestine. But it was not empty. There were people there. And then the 12th tribe stayed in Egypt. And then Pharaoh came. And then he wanted to start torturing the children of Israel. And then the story of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. It's all happening there. So they departed from Palestine. And there were people there. I'm just putting this into very small context so that traditionally, they cannot claim that they had it for 5,000 years. No, you did not. You did not. And even when they wanted to come back to Palestine, and Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, that 40 years been in the diaspora. So let's come quickly, fast, quick. In that area, it was controlled by the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire are those controlled by, they come from Italy, that area, the Roman empires and all that. They were controlling that area, including Syria, including Lebanon, including Jordan, including Palestine. There were Jews there, of course, and they were not treated well. And then until the Messiah, Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, came. And now the Byzantine, under the Jews' control, they went after Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam and they wanted to crucify him. And of course, according to our faith, they were not able to crucify him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him and saved him. But later, the Byzantine adopted Jesus, Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, and they made a modification because they found that this could be something they can have more control and have more people appealing to them. The Christianity built up. Now, Jews in that area were not treated well. Still small, the Byzantine is in control. Fast forward, Muslims came, Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab, in his opening of Jerusalem, again, Jews were not well treated. When he conquered Jerusalem and took it away from the Byzantine, we liberated Jews. This is the first liberation of Jews on the hands of Muslims. And we all know, probably some of you may not know, there was, when Sayyidina Umar went to Jerusalem and he wanted to pray and they wanted to build a mosque, and then they said, this land is for the Jews. So he abandoned. He said, no, because if we do that, then we are taking that, for the Jews, and the Muslims will always have that for Sayyidina Umar. That's how much we were mindful, caring for others. We had the high moral grounds all the time. So, Muslims in control now, peace and security for everyone, even for the Christian there, the Christian Arabs. Fast forward, Crusaders wants to come back. The memories and the Byzantine Empire, always the West, their eyes on the Holy Land. Always. They made their expeditions, as we know, one after the other. CNN, one time, they had a special program. They call them the Templars. The Templars are the ones who really made the expeditions for the Crusaders. It was actually a business transaction for them. They know that people, for the love of Jesus, they told them, okay, we are going to be there for Jesus, but actually it was all business, according to CNN. And the documentary that they have produced, the Templars, were actually using that, but the fact of the matter was all about greed and money and power and all that. When the Crusaders went there, Muslims were there, Christians were there, Jews were there. They made a lot of massacres. Europeans are savages, even against themselves. The medieval times, we all know what it is. We know how the fight between the Spanish and the French and the German, it's always been they've been always making havoc in the land. And with the same mentality of killing and murder, they brought this with them to the Holy Land, and they killed Jews and Muslims, even Christian Arabs, because they felt superior. With that, they stayed there for about a little over 80 years. And so only Muslims came back again with Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, and he was able to liberate Palestine and save Jews for the second time. Gave them peace, prosperity, and security. Even when Muslims had their presence in Europe, in Spain, we always have mistakes when we start to become greedy ourselves too, disunited. And then in Spain, always the vicious Europeans, their eyes on this new dynasty that they're, because there were prosperity at the time, medicine, science, and Jews were very close to the Muslims, and they gave them a lot of space within the Muslims. And when the Spanish, if you know the Spanish, they did a lot of massacre, the dungeons, and I went to Cordoba and I've seen those. It is amazing how they used to torture and kill Muslims and Jews. So we have a history that we've always been the saviors for the Jews. Even in World War II, Jews used to, because again, the German Nazis, they did the Holocaust. I can believe it. From what I see today, it really makes me believe even more and more that they are capable of making all those crimes against humanity, the European. Because they see what happened today to the Palestinians, and they come and they want to give more to the killing machines. So they have that kind of vicious mentality. So what happened is Jews were persecuted in Europe. Only safe havens for them was actually with Muslims. And there was a video and there were documentaries where Jews been protected by Muslims in the basements of their mosques in France. And I have many literatures from Jews themselves who they said Muslims saved Judaism and the culture and the language of the Hebrew because of what they have allowed Jews to do during their times of control. When I was in college, I took a course. It's called Contemporary Israel. And they say and they admit their golden age was under the Muslims. Now, because again, the West is always vicious and they created World War I. Muslims have nothing to do with it. Millions of people died. World War II, same thing. They colonized Muslim countries and Arab countries because they want to fuel their war. British, French, Italians, and took part of northern Africa, in Syria, in Jordan, in Iraq, in Lebanon. They divided, some under the British, some under the French. Libya were under the Italians. And then you got those northern, at that time, kingdom from Norway, from Denmark, from others. They went into Africa. And of course, the French had a good fair share of Africa as well. And now when the European wanted to settle their wars, they started dividing the world here and there. And they were able to, unfortunately, and this is the biggest mistake, not just mistake, this is how when we are divided, I always say, when Muslims are divided, we got taken one by one. They abandoned the Khilafah at the time. Because there's so much I can talk about what's happened during the Ottoman and Khilafah and how they conspired against the Ottoman Khalifa at the time, Abdul Hamid, and how they threatened him, and then until the Khilafah was dismantled. And the British and the French and Psycho-Speaker, they divided the Middle East into these small countries, and they appointed people to be kings in Iraq, in Iraq and Jordan, and then you got in Egypt, and then the French took in Syria, Lebanon, and Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, and so on. There is no control of Muslims on their own land. They promised them freedom if they willing to separate from the Ottoman Empire. And when they did, yes, they gave him, a little bit of these things, but they are still under the control of the British and the French. And then they had to fight in order to get their independence later on. With all of this happening in Palestine, it was all Palestine. There were some Jews, but they were only 6% of the land. And their numbers is very, very few. The British, under the mandate, they were in control. The Zionist movement, they were thinking of a place for the Jews. Palestine was not one of the choices. There was two places alternate to Palestine at the very beginning. One in Latin America, and the other one was actually in Africa. But the Zionist group at the time, they said, no, let's go to Palestine. And then the Balfour Declaration came. At that time, still the British in control, Zionist terrorist groups formed. The Argonne and the Haganah, and there was a third one that I always forget. And who were the leaders? Menachem Begin, Ishaq Shamir, and many others that we know that they were prime ministers of Israel later on. President Jimmy Carter on Larry King Live show was talking about how back then, when Menachem Begin was the head of the terrorist group going to Palestine and making bombing and all kinds of atrocities against the Palestinians and attacking even the British at the time, with the very famous King David Hotel bombing where the British were stationed in there. And Jimmy Carter said, we told Menachem Begin at the time, and it's all history, by their own testimony and admission, look, we cannot help build and give a recognition to a state of Israel if you're going to continue to do these terrorist activities. You have to stop. That's Jimmy Carter's. You can just Google a show on Larry King and review what he was talking about. So what happened now is that they start creating what they call it kibbutz, small settlements. They come trained, and then they train more people in these kibbutz on arms, and they start making attack on Palestinian villages, and they did massacres, the same one that we see today, but with the small arms that they have. And Palestinians at that time, nobody was armed. I mean, it was their land, and and at that time they believed the British. So they had Kafr Qasim massacres, they have Deir Yassin massacres, and so many other massacres in these cities in an attempt to scare people so that they can leave their places, and then they build those and expand on their settlements and places of their control. To the point even neighbors start to turn against their own Muslim Palestinians who protected them and lived with them so many years. That's how much they changed their mind to become monsters. And that's how they start taking control. And with some, again, the West never had goodwill for the Muslim countries in the Middle East. And so they made this kind of a promise to create a state for Israel, and they declared it in 1947 in the United Nations to have the state of Israel. And the map, I wish I could have shown you where it was. Of course, Muslim countries and Arab countries at the time, they refused. And there was the first revolution at the time of Izz-ad-Din al-Qassam and Sheikh Amin al-Husseini and so many other Palestinians who revolted and wanted to defend against it. But unfortunately, the conspiracy, the greed, the the khiyana. Yes, that they did those Arab kings and leaders of the time to allow this to happen, and then they created the state of Israel in 1948, and everybody started to recognizing it as a state. Now, of course, with this happening, and they told the Palestinians, okay, you leave now and you're going to come back, just like what they're telling them today. Go to Sinai or go to, and then you come back when everything finished. This is exactly repeating history. That you leave and when you come back when we take care of this. So some went to Lebanon, some went to Syria, some went to Jordan, some went to Egypt, and the Palestinian people been refugees in these places, and also refugees within their own. In 1967, the Arabs, they thought that they can do, liberation of their territories, and it was again when they don't have. When you have corrupt, non-Islamic motivation, they were all seculars. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want this holy land to be liberated by the hands of liberals, progressives, or socialists, or communists, or nationalists, because this is a holy land, a place for the prophets and the messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They failed. They failed because they were not prepared, they were not planned for it, and they lost it in 1967, and Israel was able to take over Jerusalem. So you can see all of this happening only by war. This was not by Jews coming, carrying in their hands the olive branches coming in peace. It was all in wars, and they've been always into these leaders to conspire and be able to take them. Now, in Gaza, because now Gaza became a little small strip, why 2.3 million people in this small area? Because all those settlements around it, they were Palestinian villages. They pushed them out of their homes and they put them all in Gaza. So the surrounding area, these are all Palestinian villages. By the same law that our government and our administrations and the Israeli claim that they have the right to defend themselves, the Palestinians have the right to defend themselves against those who are taking their villages and homes. Because those were not part of the 1948 division of Palestine. At the beginning, they said PLO was the terrorist, and they want to eradicate PLO, and there was always fight, and they are the bad guys. Hamas was not there, Islamic movement was not there. In the 80s, there was the first Intifada. And the first Intifada, the uprising, was led by Hamas, which was a social service group. Israel, they said, this is great. We're going to support it so that they can be against Fatah at the time, PLO. And they continued to support it. Now Hamas became very popular among the Palestinians, and it was only social. It was not, they never carried a gun at the time. It was only uprising demonstrations going out until they really, Israel became, the same thing. People see the viciousness in killing the uprising of the Palestinian people, which is they want their land. So basically, Hamas now became dominant, and with the continued atrocities against the Palestinian, especially in West Bank, refusal of Israel to make any peace settlements, always blaming the Palestinians. They are the ones who are not doing it, which is not true. Even I think Wagner, I think there was one American, I believe at one time he was either national security advisor or foreign minister. He was interviewed on MSNBC, and they told him, you know, when Yasser Arafat and Yitzhak Rabin were doing the negotiation in Camp David, you know, they said, well, they give the Palestinians the chance, but they refused it. He said, no, as a matter of fact, it's not true. And then the host, he said, well, that's all what everybody knows and reported. He said, that is not true. It is in the archives at the State Department that it was the Israelis who refused to accept. It was not the Palestinians. It was not Yasser Arafat. But they put it out in the media so that they blame the Palestinians. Just like today. They killed the Palestinians and they said, oh, it was them. They bombed themselves. Just like the hospital. They said it was jihad, it was them. And our president, it is so demeaning for the US to have a president willing to take the information from a crook like Benjamin Netanyahu as facts, and then this fact turned out to be wrong and proven wrong. A president of the United States, the most powerful country in the world, they take false information. And then later on, New York Times reported that, as a matter of fact, the hospital was bombed by Israel, was not, just like the babies they got. I'm just trying to give you a quick outside. There is a lot going on, all in between. Israel's policy always, they kill civilians knowingly, intentionally, and they claim, oh, they are hiding behind civilians. Well, what we saw, they were actually not hiding behind civilians. They went all the way out to the Palestinians. So they are not cowards. They are not hiding behind. I'm not trying to praise this or that. I'm just trying to put the facts. The facts is that they are not, and plus this is Gaza. Gaza is very small. So what they're going to give you the address where they are? I mean, but they know and they kill. They tell people, leave. The other day I was meeting with Senator Duckworth. She came to our mosque. And I showed her, look, this is an American citizen, a boy. They told him to go to Rafah, crossing around Egypt, so that they can leave Gaza. They went there, they bombed him. And the kid was holding, he said, I am an American, he's my passport, and the blood is all over. And his family been bombed with him. Today, a few hours ago, another Palestinian American family, they spoke with the State Department. They made the deal. They told him, take the beach road so that you will get into Rafah, then you leave. They went to that road that the State Department told them to go to, and then they bombed them. So brothers and sisters, what's happening is beyond explanation. It is barbaric. It is savage. It is the same mentality that they kill without any regard to international law. It was interesting, one of the professors who's teaching law, international law, and with his students, he canceled the class. And he said, there is no meaning to teach international law when the international law is not followed, even by the countries who have the power of veto against every international law that they have been violating against the Palestinians. Schools, hospitals, ambulances, places of worship, Christians and Muslims and masajid and churches. Everything that they're bombing. They were hoping to get one killed from Hamas so that they say, oh, we justify it because we got one, and they could not even get one. So far, all children, all women, all civilians, all civilian apartments and homes, and There is nothing we have seen that has any military connections to it. But that is the viciousness that they had all along their history, 75 years. And finally, I would say that our...
Can I interject here for a moment? So it's very good for us to understand the history, the historical context that you've presented here. But I think the question, one question that a lot of people want to know is there anything that is different this time around than all the previous times that there has been these types of flare-ups?
Yes.
Do you think that this time is different than previous times? And what do you think that is?
Oh, yeah. As they say, what's after October 7 is completely different than what's before October 7. In October 7, Israel had the most demeaning blow of its history. Israel believes this is the most detrimental blow that they got, because they posed themselves as the most powerful army in the world, and in the region at least. Our government, your tax money, been given to Israel every single year, billions of dollars, to make it the strongest. They gave them the highest and the best military equipment in the world. All this failed on October 7. The Iron Dome failed on October 7. The intelligence and the security apparatus that they built with all the cameras and all the things and the walls and everything failed on October 7.
Some say that it was deliberate. What do you think about that?
No. That's Israel would not do this humiliation, because you know how much they lost on contracts for the Iron Dome that they tried to sell to everybody? Do you know how much they lost in terms of credibility of their security system that they were selling to everybody? You know all the scandals that came out about the software companies that they are selling and spying, even on the Apple phones and others. This is the first time they have that many casualty in the elite. They call it the Gaza Brigade that they had. It's one of the top elites. It's all wiped out. For them, this was huge, and they don't want to lose that edge that they thought. And as a matter of fact, every time they drag the U.S. fleets into the area. If you are so powerful, why you want the U.S. to come in there? Where is our money that you have taken to make you the best army in the world? Why U.S. has to come? So for them, what happened on October 7 was detrimental. And if they do not do something, their image in the world is gone. As a matter of fact, according to American experts and other international experts and observers, they said their image is gone no matter what they do. Thomas Friedman, one of the most known writer, and he's very close to the decision makers in Washington, D.C., wrote the other day in New York Times, and he said, it is better for Israel to concede the defeat and move on, because what they are doing does not make any sense. It's just too much liability for America, because at the end, we are the guarantor and we are the supplier of the weapons that they are killing children with it. This is not going to go unnoticed. American citizens being killed deliberately. We are going to have lawsuits against Israel, and even to some of our government who declined and who were not up to the promises they gave to those citizens to go there for safety, yet they've been bombed. They did not. So there is, unfortunately, a lot is going to happen after October 7, and after this is finishes one way or the other, because the amount of atrocity documented by international groups about the war crimes and the genocide perpetrated by the Israelis is huge. There's nothing that they can't do. So that's why this is different than any other time. Every other time, Israel always been like the boo. They go ahead. This one, it was a humiliation.
The other thing a lot of people are saying is that they have lost control of the narrative that they've been feeding to the entire world for the past 75 years about how they have been the victim. But now the world is really seeing what is really happening on the ground. And some have said that the difference between Israel and Palestine is that Israel is telling us that, oh, they've been suffering and going through all of this, but the Palestinians are actually showing us what they've been experiencing for 75 years.
One is telling, the other is showing. Look, no doubt that there is anti-Semitism around the world. As Muslims, where our faith is, we do not accept that. We do not accept that. We do not accept to anybody to be prosecuted or tortured or killed or because of their religion. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guaranteed everyone. وَقُلِ أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم سورة الكهف وَقُلِ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Allah gave him a choice, not us. If you want to believe, believe. You don't want to believe, you don't believe. But this is the haqq. This is the right. So we cannot tell them, because you are not a Muslim, we should kill you. Or because you're not. No. Every life has a sanctity that has to live. You go after the violators of the law, violators of the human sanctity, then you go after that. So the Israelis, they always been, many times they provoke the Palestinians and the Muslims in the world when they go and desecrate Masjid al-Aqsa. They kill the Musallin over there. They drag the women to the grounds. They push everybody. They steal their homes. We've seen it on videos. Sheikh Jarrah, the neighborhood. I mean, this government of Netanyahu and the extreme right that he had, they keep doing whatever they like because he thinks that he owns the United States of America, and no president, no administration dare to talk to him about anything. He defied everybody. He even defied the Israeli internal affairs when he wanted to change the laws in there. So this group are the ones actually responsible for all this what's happening. Remember when he came to the U.S. and there is a protocol when a prime minister wants to address the Congress, he has to deal with the president. And it has to come from an invitation from the president. It was Obama at the time, and he did not do that. And he went by invitation of the Republicans who hated Obama and crossed the line on the protocol and made him to come to Congress and speak. And it was a big issue at the time. So this Netanyahu and this right-wing group, they have been known for their arrogance and for the extremism that they've been doing, especially with Ben Gvir and Schmutzer, who are really known for their absolute extreme views, and they have been arming their own followers and the settlers. If there is a two-state solution, how could be one continue to do settlement on the same territories that's supposed to be two-state solutions? If you are truly interested and sincere and genuine about two-state solution, then you should not do that. And our government, our administration, they always allow this to happen. Although it's a violation to policies that we had in the US, that there be no more settlements. And every time they tell them no more settlements, okay, what happens to the one that they already settled in? Those are gone. So every day they take it. That's why I wanted to show you the map. There's nothing left. It's like a Swiss cheese. It could not be a contiguous state for the Palestinians when there's always a checkpoint to move from one neighborhood to another. So intentionally, they're trying to make it not to happen. Our government is complacent on this. They know what's happening is not going to yield to states two-state solutions. They know that. They're just buying time, and they blame the Palestinians who are not doing this. They would like to see the Palestinians fight each other. They want the Palestinian Authority and Hamas keep fighting with each other, and then they sit down and they take more and more land, and then they say, hey, you lost your opportunity. So it is unfortunate that we see this kind of policy happening, and we lose, as an American, the credibility of an honest broker of peace. And therefore, this is, as a matter of fact, I told some Jewish friend, I said, do you really believe the US or the West, they care about you to have a peace? I mean, they're giving you this weapons and the money to kill Palestinians, and Palestinians kill you. Have you had one day of peace over the 75 years occupation of Palestine?
No, brother, please. We have a program here. We're gonna give everyone a chance.
Control.
As I mentioned in the beginning, we're gonna wrap it up by 7:55. The last 7 minutes, we're gonna open it up for question and answer. I'm waiting for Brother Oussama to finish. Let's not disrespect our guest that's here. So for the remaining time, brother, please, can we take some questions from the audience?
Sure.
Yes, please, go ahead.
We are well aware of the situation in the sense that in the Middle East. But one of the concerns we all have the concern is, I lived in Saudi Arabia for 23 years. What we have is all the Arab nations are divided. What can be done for all the Arab nations to become one bloc? We need to be united. That's the problem we have, because we are so divided and we are making a mockery of ourselves. Can we all be united? Look at Saudi Arabia. Look at Jordan. I mean, they just, whenever these skirmishes happen, people just get upset. Now this has gone beyond. What as American Muslims can we do? It is hard.
Jazakallah khair.
Can you please present what my sister said about the Nasrullah speech? He gave a wonderful speech, I believe. He says actually it's the United States attacking.
Okay. Well, sister, thank you for your questions and thank you for your passion. You are preaching to the choir. We all love to see the unity of not just the Arab countries, all Muslims together. And I wish I have them here. I would have tied them up. I am very passionate about unity, and that's why, alhamdulillah, we formed the U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations. In the United States, we formed a council that represents the majority of our national, regional, local, and our founding members is AMP, ICNA, CARE, MAS, Wartadi Muhammad, MLFA, MUNA, and then CIGC we have the Council of New York, we have Council of California, we have Council of Arizona, we have Council of the Northwest Pacific, we have Masajid, we have the Islamic Relief, we have Helping Hand, we have ICNA Relief, we have Bayt al-Mal, we have UMR, we have UHR, we have so many organizations, alhamdulillah, as member of the U.S. Council of Muslim Organization, because we believe, and I believe strongly, that we as Muslims, I can control, or I can work with my communities here. And alhamdulillah, we've been able to form an umbrella organization that shows unity to empower our community, and that we can speak with one voice, with power, with our administration, with other interfaith groups, and so on and so forth. We can do what we can do here. It is unfortunate. And we saw the Arab Spring when people rose and they wanted to have freedom, but unfortunately they quelled and they took all the people to prisons, and unfortunately the situation is very bad. Yes, I agree with you. We want to see that kind of unity. Well, I tell you what, for this what happened here, we wanted just one thing for them to do. Can you imagine all these Arab Muslim countries, especially those who are surrounding, Palestine? They are unable to force the Israelis to bring human aid, humanitarian aids, medical supplies, food, water, for God's sake. They are unable. That's how much they are weak. That's how much they are null. They are nothing in the weight of nations. And this is happening in their own neighborhood. They don't have that kind of power. It is sad, yes, and history will judge. And we hope that Muslims will see that they need to do better than that to change their approach. Look, your enemy will always conspire against you. You need to stop conspiring against your own. That means if people don't change inside their own countries, no one is going to change. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. The conditions will not change unless people change. So our people need to change. Your enemies are going always to conspire against you, will prevent you from being united. So we have to do our own.
Jazakumullah khairan for that response. I know that the audience here may have other questions too, but we're coming up on the time for Isha Salah. I believe Brother Oussama will be here for Isha, and then if you would like to have a conversation with him one-on-one, you are more than welcome to do that. We plan on having more programs like this. As a matter of fact, after Isha, we have another speaker that is going to be speaking on the same subject that is after Isha today. But we have a different speaker and a different program after Isha today. So if you're interested in continuing the conversation and learning more about this, please feel free to join after Isha. This concludes the program for this evening. We appreciate you being with us, and we thank you for being with us. Thank you, and Jazakumullah khairan for being here with us.
I just want to say that I had the honor of giving the first khutbah of this masjid when it was opened way back then. So I'm happy to see how beautiful it is right now. Jazakumullah khairan.